Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino. Preakness Day 2023. Interesting race. Interesting, hopefully great weekend at Pimlico, their annual big celebration of horse racing. A couple stellar races yesterday and even more today. Post time is 10:30. I think the Preakness is scheduled to go off like 7:01, which is later than the Derby. It's in the Derby like 6:35 or something, but the Preakness I think is 7:01. I thought I saw in the form. We'll get to that after about 12 races. They're having 14 today too. Seth will have an abbreviated racing across America at the top of the hour, and obviously horse racing a buzz. But one thing I've definitely settled on, Seth, and I really think you could almost make the objective argument. I think the Triple Crown needs to be the first Saturday in May, June, and July. And two guys really bring it to the fore for me, and that's Todd Pletcher and Chad Brown, who obviously have been doing great things for a generation now. And that is, I think Todd's run about 50 horses in the Derby, right? If you don't count the horses that won the Derby for him and thus have to go to the Preakness, I think Todd's run about 5 or 6 horses in the Preakness. He's not running one today. Chad Brown has won 2 Preakness stakes and in the in the last 6 years. And both of them didn't run in the Kentucky Derby. If I remember correct, they were both coming out of the Wood, which meant a 6-week layoff. And neither did very well after. My point is, I think they would be better races and thus harder races. I think the group that says the Triple Crown is harder this way than the way I'm proposing are factually wrong. I think barns like Pletcher and Chad Brown, who seemingly have very good 3-year-olds, would run them. I think, the two Phils argument is great, and the fact that only one Derby horse is here. And the other thing I looked up, because I was starting to be suspicious of the Preakness, in this century, so we've had 23 winners in this century. 16 of them average 1 win the rest of their career. 16 of the winners, I think, are like 17 for 80 something. And a lot of offers. And if you really take out Rachel, Point Given only went 3 for 3. But basically, Rachel, California Chrome, and I know I'm missing somebody. They had the bulk of the wins. But it seems as if it would be better if there was more time between. This seems to be a negative key career race. I don't think the competition is that good. I think Todd Pletcher and Chad Brown would fill the entry box better. I think the Triple Crown would be harder, and I think it would be better each component. And also, I think all these undercard races would be better also. I think you would have horses. I think the Black Eyed Susan would be better. You'd have a month after the Oaks. Who was the last time a Kentucky Oaks winner went to the Black Eyed Susan?
Yeah, that says something too. That they don't get there's not even a conversation about that.
It's like a different group.
Yeah, no.
And it seems like we're going that way with the Preakness.
Yeah, and that's been the buzz the last 2 weeks. And I said it.
And he's a long shot winner. It's not like he was 7-5 and he won and now he's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I said it in a few days after as the buzz started, though. It also plays, it's multi-layered into, you're not just playing to the trainers and the horses, but Maryland and New York have to kind of buy into it too and figure that's going to play into their calendar. And I heard, Jay Preakness was on with Vic yesterday.
The Hall of Famer.
And he's more a traditionalist, and he made the point, and I think this is, worth discussion as well. Does the Triple Crown hold its place on the American sports calendar if it's spaced out and you're going up against baseball and, various other things.
I don't think any of that changes.
Well, in the 5-week period, it's condensed. I think it's a little more.
How much attention does the Belmont get if
there is
if Mage doesn't win today?
But
and what will the Preakness get today? I think the Derby is I wouldn't take any marketing away from the Derby. It'll kill interesting, but I think they'd be better. Did he discuss would they be better horse races? Seems like he didn't tell. Like, would they be better? I think it's irrefutable that they wouldn't be better horse races.
You'd have to think so.
I mean, there's been some bad Belmont winners that never won again. Entry level allowance, 1Xs. I have a list of them. I think, and the other thing is the Preakness has to be $3 million. It can't be 1.5.
Yeah, no, that's. But the Belmont also is an anachronism these days with the
distance,
mile and a half.
Yeah. I mean, think about all the Preakness when Bernardini immediately. Well, we're not going there. They have no, and I think we'll see that maybe today. Like if Mage loses today, there doesn't seem to be that thing to winning 2/3 of the Triple Crown anymore.
Who was I? It might have been McAdam last week. I might McAdam on, and we were talking about this subject. And and he's a traditionalist, but brought up maybe it's worth thinking about the old bonus. Bring that back, the points bonus.
I have to tell you something. When that was around, that wasn't a.
And that
the Sea Hero people knew they were so bad winning it, they donated it. They're like,
weird. But it seems like.
What would it have to be? 10 million?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
at least 5.
I don't know about that either. I mean, I think if you're up at 2 or 3, you get people who are interested in going in all 3. I think. But it did disappear, so obviously there was.
But they seem to be primitive. They seem to be grappling at things that aren't really about the races, like the athletic event. Like this is pretty soft, right? Am I wrong? I mean, this is right.
No, I totally agree with the concept of if it gets spaced out, it does not get easier.
Right, I agree with that. And also from this standpoint that we do on the Handicappers Report, in our lifetime, Seth, or a reasonable lifetime, and since the Preakness has been graded, there's only been one $40 winner.
Oh, I saw some stat to that effect the other day.
And how about this? A couple years ago, I've had some big days. They don't let me in charge of the bankroll anymore, and I've had huge days, by the way. No offense, but
give me some advice this afternoon.
Oxbow was the 8th choice in the wagering that I had, and he keyed my day. Even the $40 winner was only the 7th choice in the wagering. So there's been no real winners. Oxbow worked out for me, but he only paid $30. There was only 9 runners in the field, and he was the 8th choice. He paid low 30s that day, but no bombs really ever.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've always thought, I don't think this will ever happen. Swiss Skydiver is never going to get her just due, because I think her beating Authentic was demonstrably better than Rachel beating Mind That Bird, who, by the way, Mind That Bird was starting his never winning another race the rest of his career in the Preakness. I always said the biggest indictment for Rachel was how close he got to her. That's an indictment. He was terrible. He never won again after the Derby, but I don't think Swiss Skydiver is ever going to. And Authentic was horse of the year.
That whole year is unfortunate for anybody who
had a big year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. 14 races. Both Seth and I are taking on the Preakness. It's always a great day in racing. There'll be a large crowd. No grandstand. There's a lot going on in Maryland racing. Seems to be, as the world turns down there, it looked like Pimlico was facing the firing squad years ago. Now it looks like Laurel's facing the firing squad. But I said to Dan, there's only one turf course at Pimlico. I mean, it's interesting how they have to get their house in order, literally and figuratively. But today is a celebration.
Speaking of which, Gulfstream's going on a little hiatus with their turf course.
Okay.
No,
again.
It's impossible to go all year long.
Apparently, New York has the right thing to grow grass. Churchill Downs people can't. Santa Anita had their trouble. Now Gulfstream has their trouble, and Now, unbelievable. So Fairground. Well, that's the Churchill Downs people, right?
Yeah.
We're wondering what they're going to do to Colonial, who's had a great turf course since its inception. But 14 races, 10:30 post time. They'll be on the network. I don't look into these type of things, but I trust NBC grabs some races, maybe not as many as Derby Day. 4:30. So we're good until 4:30 then, which is definitely we're good all day.
Different races. Scenario than the Derby.
There's a surprise. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. Yeah.
Match race in New York yesterday.
9 o'clock. John Piasek will be on with me from the Maryland Breeders Association. We'll talk some of the stakes with John and get a little feel for Pimlico yesterday.
Did you nail a match race yesterday?
Yes, I did. and I said, for folks who have never seen one, or you try to predict who's going to get out to the lead, and they get out, and that's just he had about a head lead until the turn, and then once the horse starts to pull away, it's done.
I guess that was a clerical error. Something.
Oh, I didn't see.
I think they did administer Lasix at the right time, which didn't make any sense to me. You knew what race they were running, and you know what time the Lasix said. That didn't make sense, but apparently Lasix was not administered correctly time before the races. They had to scratch out, went down to a deuce, and I'm like, well, that's the explanation. But I'm like, you knew what time they were running.
Yeah, explanation, bad explanation.
Accurate, but bad, yes. So we have 14 races, plenty of wagering action. What do you got going on today? You got a bankroll?
I got the bankroll. Yeah. That's what I said.
That's why I figured you were talking about.
Come out and whisper in my ear.
Well, we'll see who you like, and then we'll see. But here we go. Hopefully.
And speaking of that, let me tout that. There is a bankroll out there today. So if you come down today to the race book, there are actually 2 drawings. It should be a lot of fun. At 2 o'clock, we'll pick the bankroll team. I'll start playing at about 1.
Wonderful. So team's not set. This is like the NBA draft lottery.
Yeah, come down.
All
and
right.
you get your chance to be on the team. End of the day, we split up all the winnings. Hopefully, I can balloon it up nicely.
Yes.
But there's a second drawing at 4 o'clock. 4 people here at the race book will be selected. They'll each get a $50 Preakness bet. So a couple of fun events here at the race book this afternoon. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Always one of the best ideas for capital. I think Oxbow's Preakness and Palace Malice Belmont. Palace Malice's Belmont was the best one. I said to the guy, I said, when they put up all the prices on this next board, we have them all, superfecta included. All right, kicking it off at 10:30 in the morning, Preakness morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to sprint 5 on the turf.
I have a 10, 3, 6, and 1. I'll put American Speed on top. Comes off a couple of synthetic tries over at Turfway. They were both stakes races. 2 races back ran well. In the follow-up in the Battaglia, not so much so. Now a little time off. Comes in with a decent little workout for Brad Cox. Luis Saez on board. Maybe in a nice controlling position or a nice tactical position from the outside post. So up with that one on top with a little trepidation given what we saw last time. In the second spot, I'm going to use Rock the Boat. Last seen at Laurel in early January, but again, does bring in a nice bullet work for this. So I think you look down the page, there's some pretty nice races, and maybe getting back to the turf moves this horse a little bit ahead as well. And our friend Roddy Valente has busting up is hard to do in here. The number 6 horse, 20-1. I think the horse is better than that. Comes off a couple of nice wins, Charlestown and Laurel, and I think the horse could be a player. And if that price holds up, a player at good value. So for me in the opener, 10, 3, 6, and 1.
I think the listed trainer, didn't Ollie Figgins win a graded stakes at Saratoga? Maybe a grade 1 a couple of years ago at the spot. This is the 52-week loop for me, and I am chasing that $2. And we are firing at Pimlico today. 7-3-2, as you see for me. I thought this race was more wide open than the morning line had. I do have Rock the Boat in the mix, but he's orientate. Second start of the year. I truly think the first one back was just practice, just really gunned towards the front, quick times. That was on the dirt. Now, this horse has shown previously a propensity for fading. So I have that issue, but I'm getting a big price on number 7. He's orientate. I talked last week that there was a time in 2002, early in the year, I thought orientate would be a fantastic miler on the turf, and he turned out to be a champion sprinter. For second, Rock the Boat. coming in, basically starting the year. He did run on January 6th. And for third, first time gelding, first time blinkers, is number 2, Tapio, who, boy, very much intrigues me because debuted sprinting and won with some moisture on the dirt. That was in June. Came back to the races in March on the turf at the fairgrounds. 7.32 in the Preakness opener.
So your ROI includes even non-New York tracks on Saturdays?
Yeah,
Any Saturday? That's fair. I'm just asking.
It's everything I do for Capital on TV.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah.
And I was kind of looking early last
last year, last summer.
You were doing okay at Belmont last
Saturday.
I'm
chasing. This is it. I told you. People don't realize, like, I try and be funny on the show without making Seth fall out of his chair, but it's like that's one thing I'm very serious about. But no, everything I've done. So the Del Mar thing, and
I wasn't sure whether it's just the New York tracks.
Nope.
That's perfectly fair. Second race at Pimlico today. Optional claimers.
I'd be a lot closer if I took out the Kentucky Derby. 1 for 14, but that I'm on TV. It counts.
Second at Pimlico, optional claimer, non-winners of 2 other than, and a mile and 16th is a trip.
And boy, remember when I said to you a couple weeks ago when who was it? This one's for Pat or something, won the opener at like 780. At that moment, I was ahead, but I had 9 more races to go. Well, Code Runner, I'm 236. Code Runner's 20-1 on the morning on. Now, you should know one thing. I have not randomly gone around and chosen bombs in here. I just think these first couple of races on this are wide open. I had some knocks against the favorites, and but Code Runner is 20-1 on the morning line for Javier Castellano. This was a $32,000 claim 2 years ago at Keeneland, but I love the exit race going 10 furlongs on the Tapeta at Turfway Park to now go 8.5 on a race that Seth, when we had been here earlier talking about the Kentucky Oaks, where I really thought there were going to be some serious questions after a mile who wanted to go on. I think that played out. I think Code Runner is a serious contender at 8.5, but I think there is some suspects in here, especially if we get a moderate to strong pace. Be Better, Brittany Russell, who is reinventing the game, winning at almost 60%. For Mike Rapoli in here, sends out my second pick. And for third, Torch of Truth, Michael Trembetta. The only time I've ever seen like 58% was there was this stallion a couple years ago when we came to Saratoga. He was like 5 for 7 with firsters. And Brittany Russell is 7 for 12 as of 2 days ago.
Yeah,
I'm
just pulling up because she won something yesterday.
Yes, she won again. I mean,
I'm curious as to
where she is presently. Like, you think she's north of 60%?
Well, I'm wondering because she might have won a couple yesterday. That's what I'm looking at. Yesterday she went 3 for 8. So
that lowered her percentage. That's like Ted Williams going, right. 2 for 6. You lowered her percentage. That's only 338.
Although I will give her a pass in the Miss Preakness. Well, she didn't win it though, but she had a couple in there. But she didn't win that.
For statistics, I believe in that. I believe from a statistical analysis, guys like Chad Brown, especially on the turf for those races, when he wins the race, I think it's reasonably fair to disregard his also rans. Yeah. I think statistically that presents a more accurate picture of their white-hottedness.
Yeah. For me, 3, 5, 6, and 7. I went with Brittany Russell on top for just that. She's red hot down in the Mid-Atlantic region. And for people who don't know, and I don't think there's that many out there, it's down in Maryland. She's just the past couple of seasons, and she's married to the jockey Sheldon Russell. But this one's interesting. Went from Todd Pletcher to Brittany Russell, and then down to her Maryland base for Mike Rapoli. And the last couple of races since arriving down at Maryland, a couple of nice and improving races could be primed for better today. Iwan, if I have that pronounced correctly, number 5 in the second spot off a nice try last time. A little bit of an early season layoff, and the comebacker was very impressive off of that, deserves consideration. And I think Torch of Truth, the Mike Trombetta horse, I think it's his wife owns, getting maybe a little bit of class relief, and could be interesting in here on that move. In the second of Pimlico, 3, 5, 6, and 7.
On to third, we go back to the turf. These are maiden special weights going a root of ground, 8.5.
5, 4, 10, and 3. Too far east is West, another Mike Trombetta trainee. Debut was pretty good, but I will note, came from out of the clouds, as it were, and you're always up against it a little bit, but I'm hoping that race puts some experience in, and maybe we're up and playing around a little closer earlier. And so we'll put that one on top in the second career start, looking for that improvement based on the first out experience. Wayhill Road goes out for Shug off a series of improving numbers. Now, the numbers have improved. The finishing positions maybe not so much. But looking at the numbers and looking at this group and moving over to the turf, I'll trust Shug to be making a clever move here. Gaffleone on board. So 5-1 on the morning line. And I think given the finishing positions, we'll hold at a decent price and some value. So Wayhill Road, intriguing. And then he's got swagger for Ken McPeak, who had a nice day yesterday, coming off a nice try in the fourth career start last time over at Churchill. And another one that I think could be primed this afternoon. Brittany Russell has Langley Avenue in there, also trying the turf for the first time and stretching out after having been beaten at 4 to 5. Get a little price there. That one could be interesting. But for me, 5, 4, 10, and 3.
10, 1, 9 in here. He's got swagger. Ken McPeak mentioned how, he is hooked into Brian Hernandez very seriously in Kentucky. Flavian Prat gets the call here. I think that's an intention type move for a horse who's been very consistent for Ken McPeak and had a very good effort most recently. For a second, I go to the rail. Composer's Dream. Mike Maker's runner off of a little freshening. Just missed hitting the board, beaten a little bit more than a length for all the money. And for third, first-time starter for Jimmy Toner, number 9, Headline News, going out for the Familiar Silks of Joe Allen. And one thing I saw, Seth, you can't see it, but my yellow highlighter on the 13, making a first-time start. Peter Gorey is maybe how I would go, but you don't see Danzig in lineage anymore, but he is the grandsire of this firster who gets the services of Jose Ortiz. 10-1-9 for me.
I thought the Toner horse was a little interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see. Jimmy Toner is very conservative. This is, it's Preakness Day. He had to figure there'd be good runners in there, and he probably had to figure he'd be giving away experience to some really good runners, but here he goes.
The fourth race kicks off the stakes action. It's the Sir Barton. This is also for 3-year-olds, as is the big race today. They will run for $100,000 and go 8.5 furlongs.
3-4-1 for me and Tappett's Conquest for Brad Cox. Ran down in the fairgrounds, was solid enough in the Risen Star, and then lost with excuses in the mile and 3/16 Louisiana Derby. Clearly a softer spot here. And I think we had some regression, Louisiana Derby, whether it was physical or the traffic, large traffic. But I think we're in position to move forward. We're running enlisted stakes action versus graded stakes action. Luis Saez gets the call for the first time, and Tappett's Conquest, my top pick. For a second, Arabian Lion, who, boy, I think I would like to. 2 to 5 seems unreasonable as a morning line. He's on a long losing streak. He's won one race.
He is going to take action, though. It's bad.
2 to 5.
It's only a 6-horse field.
Masterwork for me for third. Boy, I tell you, I'm going to tell you how far off I was, Seth. I thought it'd be 6 to 5, and I explained this to my sisters. 2 might be close to 6 in arithmetic, but 6 to 5 versus 2 to 5 is as wide as the Grand Canyon in difference. And I'm like, let me know, Seth, the next time you get a horse coming off a 4-race losing streak is 2 to 5 on the board. Wow.
I used him on top. I was going back and forth about using him on top. And now, after watching Fazy yesterday, I'm even less enthusiastic about this one. But I had all the trepidation you did.
Even money would have been fine. But to put him at 2 to 5.
But I do think he's probably better than the first mission would have taken a lot of action in the Preakness, and he just missed the first mission.
I'll give a better example. If over the next 5 years we put up the records of all the horses who are 2 to 5 in stakes races, none will look like this.
Yeah, no, I have no arguments that it is a horse that he's shown flashes of talent clearly, and it's Bob Baffert. I'm tilting there, but again, I'm with you on the odds. And again, after seeing Fazed yesterday, who looked to have the edge on that field, Dennington. If you are looking for alternatives, Dennington to me. Fourth last time in the Lexington, but I think the Ken McPeak runner has some talent and a better effort, puts that one in the thick of things. And then, Tappett's Conquest for Brad Cox, a player as well. And I'll be interested to see. But I think I've said it now for quite a while. The betting public, when they latch onto a horse, they go down. I think this horse will take action, but now I'm going to be intrigued to see.
Imagine if he's 1 to 5. I'm like, holy cow. We'll take one more before the break. We go on to the 5th race. Fillies and Mares, entry-level allowance, a mile and 16 on the turf.
6, 4, 9, and 7. The number 6, Tequilera, coming off a seasonal debut that was, I would think, a decent little fitness builder. Ran okay, ran third, was up right in the mix late, and then just got caught again. Was sitting second, but got caught and ran third. But again, I thought it was a good race to kind of build on and move forward from. Gaffleone on board today. Nicolaire in the second spot, making the seasonal debut. Wound up last season with a win in November. Workouts aren't jumping off the page, so it's hard to know exactly what we can expect from this one. But if we get a decent effort, I think this horse will be right in the mix, and that Luis Saez elected to jump on board attracted my attention as well. Life, Love, and Laughter in the third spot, a series of improving numbers for Mike Trombetta. I think has that one showing a good progression in the 2-year-old season on the numbers, which might bode well for a horse that will come back now improved in the first start as a 3-year-old. Jose Ortiz on board. So for me in the 5th, 6, 4, 9, and 7.
This is my top pick. Is one of my favorite horses on the day. 7, 6, 9. I don't see much chance at all of receiving 8 to 1 on Amani's image. My central fear is that the comeback race, which has Practice completely labeled for yours truly, was too good. Was off since July, came back in a 5-furlong sprint. And this is a horse who's been running a distance of ground and raced very well. Now Graham Motion gets the services of Johnny V, and I think is a major player at 8 to 1. And I'm just hoping, and the race was April 20th. So they have 4 weeks. So I'm hoping that sprint comeback race was just the tightener for this 2-turn. For a second, I agree with Seth. Michael Matz sends out this horse for, he was never going to be the 2-year-old champion, but he was the best 2-year-old. He's the best 2-year-old I've seen on turf. This owner had Incurable Optimist. Hard to believe, Seth, 25 years ago. And now for third, I have number 9, Live, Love, and Laughter for Michael Trombetta, making the seasonal debut. 12 to 1. We can only hope. 7, 6, 9.
I'm just noticing I was looking for yellow and black. I didn't have yellow and black. I just had to go for yellow for today. But before we go to the break,
I suspect I have a wider array of choices.
Yes, that it goes without saying. Before we go to the break, going to do the dark horse play of the day. Our friends up at the Dark Horse Mercantile in Saratoga. Again, they're with us throughout the Triple Crown season, and we're doing some dark horse plays on Saturdays and Sundays. Got it home last Sunday, and normally I'm looking for a price. Yes. And last Sunday, I want to say the morning line on my horse was 9 to 2, but it might have been 7 to 2. But I said, with these connections, it was Michael Dove and company, and that Irod was and it was 3 to 2 eventually. But we did get it.
Michael Dove.
We did get it home.
Had lost in a claim the winner of the Black Eyed Susan.
Oh no. I always wonder what the conversations are when you get the horse claim,
call back
and then a few races later, you win a state. I wonder what what's going on behind the scenes there. But Dark Horse play of the day today. And again, our friends at the Dark Horse Mercantile, Dark Horse right on Broadway in Saratoga, down the street, their sister store, Impressions of Saratoga. They're both a lot of fun. If you want to stop on by, if you're up walking along Broadway in Saratoga, stop in, tell them we sent you, and you will not regret it. You can browse around in both of those places for quite a while. I'm going to go with Perform. I'm kind of tipping my hat here before the Preakness, but 15-1 on the morning line. And this could be a feast or famine because he could live up to what I'm thinking, or on the buyers, he is definitely a little short in here. And normally I'm a buyer guy, but I always say it's just a tool in the toolbox. And if you go back and look at that Tessio, just an outstanding performance in there. He's way back early. They're going 48, almost 113, and he closes into that with all kinds of crazy traffic trouble, and then eventually gets free and wins. I just thought it was a great performance, no pun intended. And the connections then elect to put up $150,000 to become eligible for the Preakness, and these are conservative connections. So I thought it all panned out. The Perform could be very, very interesting this afternoon at a decent price. So today's Dark Horse play of the day, race number 13, the Preakness, number 6, Perform.
And we'll take a quick break. We're going to go back. More stakes action from Pimlico.
It's been referred to as possibly the best equine-themed gift shop on the planet. Impressions of Saratoga. Impressions of Saratoga, celebrating the Saratoga and equestrian lifestyles. It's your number one choice for Saratoga souvenirs, apparel, and gift shopping. We have gifts for the entire family, and we're pet-friendly too. Visit us online at impressionssaratoga.com or come on down. Impressions of Saratoga, 368 Broadway, downtown Saratoga. Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops, my bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report, taking a look at the Pimlico Preakness Day card on this Saturday, and we'll kick things back off with race number 6 at Pimlico. See, I didn't go back to 5.
No, I'm
on my game.
I was holding my breath.
I'm on my game this week. The Chick Line Grade 3 event, $200,000, 3/4 of a mile is the trip.
And isn't Chick Lang Mr. Preakness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his thing. Henry Aaron here, 715. Prince of Jericho is my top pick. Thank you. Brittany Russell sends out this runner she's now 10 for 20. So she dipped down from 58% down to 50. Shortens up out of route races. Most recently, the Tessio, the beaten favorite. For a second, having a meltdown. Bob Baffert comes in out of the Saudi Derby. Shortens up. He's 8-5 on the board. He's only made 2 starts since the Bob Hopin for third Super Chow. So 715 in the Chick Lang.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with the 7. I mean, Michael Dove and company, and they're using Brittany Russell now. But I went 1, 5, 2, and 3. And again, after yesterday, Barnes and Feza, so I'm not maybe as high in Baffert with the runners today, but I think having a meltdown is talented and certainly a better record than the earlier Baffert I used. And so I think this one coming back from Saudi Arabia is very legit in here. Super Chow, though, I like this horse all winter long down in Florida. And I said it, watching the races, this is going to be a 3-year-old sprinter to contend with going forward. I'm intrigued to see on the numbers. I think having a meltdown's a little bit better, but it just seems like Super Chow gets it done, and the 6 furlongs is clearly the preferred trip. So intrigued to see what he does this afternoon. And in the third spot, Rivet, the Steve Asmussen trainee, coming up from a win in the Bachelor at Oak Lawn, could be an intriguing player in here as well, with his son Keith Asmussen on board. In the sixth, 1, 5, 2, and 3.
On to the seventh. They don't put him in the form anymore, but I think the Gallarette's one of those races that's been run over 100 times.
Yeah, why don't they put that in
I don't
anymore?
know. Slippage. 8.5 on the turf.
Because I've thought that too. I've looked to see, what's the history? And that's not there. 5, 1, 7, and 6 for Vergara on top. Hasn't been seen since trying Stakes Company at Belmont at Aqueduct last October, middle of last October. But it had a pretty good season. It's had a pretty good career overall. 5 exacta finishes, 3 wins in 9 starts, including a second-place finish in that Sands Point back in October. Question mark is the fitness off the layup, but it's Graham motion. You see a steady string of workouts underneath. So I'll put some trust in that one. Vergara on top. White Beam, however, looks to be the one to beat. Came over from Europe. First start in the United States for Chad Brown and Judmont was a near miss, and so that makes this one very, very dangerous. And then you add Irad Ortiz on board, adds to the reason to tilt in that direction. And then Princess Theorem in the third slot. Brendan Walsh runner comes in off a couple of nice tries down at Gulfstream and Stakes Company, and a couple of nice and maybe improving tries. So continues to move forward. In the seventh at Pimlico, the Gallarette, 5, 1, 7, and 6.
Boy, good luck to the horizontal players in here. Action all days with those. I'm 1, 4, 7. I have basically, Seth, everybody alive in this race, including Traffic Song for Jimmy Toner, who's the double digits on the morning line. But White Beam making the second start since being at Longchamp in October, came back in the Plenty of Grace. We draw the hedge in here for Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz. I'd be comfortable taking 3-1 right now for second. Eminent Victor for Chad, making the first start of the year. And for third, Princess Theorem, Brendan Walsh's runner. Just got beat in the Sand Springs down at Gulfstream in the last, but a very intriguing Gallarette. 1, 4, 7 for me.
In the eighth at Pimlico, it is the dinner party, grade 3 event, couple $100,000 up for grabs. These are 3-year-olds and up, going 9 furlongs on the turf.
And I think this is the only, Emmanuel is the only Todd Pletcher runner on Preakness Day down at Pimlico. I am 6, 1, 3 in here. See, you don't have Emmanuel either. Okay, never explained. Gets my top pick. I think Shug got on board, as many big-time trainers have. They like Tampa Bay for the Tampa Bay Downs, that is, for the turf season. Comes off back-to-back allowance wins. For second from the hedge, number 1, Atone. 9-5 on the board for Mike Maker. Got just crushed at odds on in the second start of the year down at the fairgrounds. And for third, Easter for Graham Motion. So 6, 1, 3 in the dinner party.
And you mentioned Tampa with Never Explained. Tommy Albatrani won last weekend a stake in New York, I believe, because I think Maggie was interviewing him after the race. And he said he likes to use Tampa in the wintertime almost as a training kind of a facility, but he's got to enter some horses. And so he enters. But the game plan is, let's get a turf race in anticipation of big turf racing. And so if you see a Tommy Albatrani horse that ran third or fourth down at Tampa and now comes up to New York, know that it probably was, as you like to say, practice.
And quick note, that's where, we follow it every day, but that's where casual, very casual fans that might just go to Tampa, which is, as you know, and I can't wait to see it, it's got to be a fun track and everything. They're like, what do you mean you're practicing? I just don't think that's a real concept for the newbies to wrap their heads around. And I can understand.
I was surprised to see him kind of say it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You're supposed to interpret it from our vantage point, Tom.
I have it 4, 2, 1, and 6. I put Hurricane Dream on top for Graham Motion. Started the career over in Europe, but since coming over has shown nice improvement from the try in the Pegasus turf, which was a 10th place finish, only 4 lengths back though. But the follow-up to that, I think, primes the horse very well for this afternoon. Second spot, Speaking Scout, Graham Motion, looking for the Graham Motion exacta in here. Not much of an effort in the Maker's Mark Mile. I mean, wound up being a well-beaten 5th, but was 3rd in the Pegasus Turf just before that. Won the Hollywood Derby to end the 3-year-old season. So I think this horse is better than we saw last time. And then Atone, who won the Pegasus Turf, but boy, threw in a real clunker last time at the fairgrounds. I kind of have to draw a line through that, though. You look down the page, this horse is just better than that. I'll look for a rebound this afternoon. For me, in the 8th, 4-2, 1 and 6.
On to the 9th annually. What I really started to very much follow racing and everything. It was about the time she was running, but she was running in I think it's Ski Pat. I don't think it's Skip Pat. The middle 80s, she was good, but unlike the very one who ventured to New York, I think it's Ski Pat who was, you can look up her record of an outstanding Mid-Atlantic runner, 6 furlongs the 9th.
And I will say, I was listening to Steve Bick on the radio yesterday, and he reached out to Ned Allard during the show. He texted him and said he'd gotten a text back, and it sounds like Beguine is going in New York because he's cross-entered. Or she's cross-entered. So keep that in mind. So I have Beguine in the mix, and I will continue to read the number until it becomes official. But it looks like probably heads to New York today. So for 3, 6, 2, and 9 for me, I'll put I'm the Boss of Me on top. I just thought the race at Oaklawn last time had this one set up very, very well for a nice follow-up today. Irod Ortiz on board. That last race, again, a series of improving numbers. And if this horse runs back to that, but certainly moves forward, becomes very, very tough in here. Gunning, this is a sibling to the Preakness favorite, Mage. This one comes out of a series of nice races down at Oaklawn as well and should be primed this afternoon. Again, if Beguine goes, the triple-digit buyer to start back is what I was kind of keying on. Olivia Darling, I think, is also an interesting player, but I have a 3, 6, 2, and 9. But again, do check because it looks like
henceforth in my world that will be called the Baby Yoda angle when they just stick out so much. I agree. I don't have much to add because I'm gunning. I could have flip-flopped, but Olivia Darling was a bigger price in here coming up from Tampa. But I am 3, 9, 6 in the Ski Pat.
I think that's fair because that is the most. Well, when
I pick out though,
was he a 114?
Yes. Yes, but the other thing is you never come. And we'll get to it in a moment. But Mage got like what, a 106, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll see.
I'm always a little skeptical of the dirt.
Very skeptical, some of us.
Yeah. The 10th at Pimlico Turf Sprint, $100,000. It's the Jim McKay Turf Sprint. Jim McKay, for folks who don't remember, certainly ABC broadcaster, but he was a big supporter of Maryland racing for many, many years. 5 furlongs on the turf, the trip.
Well, it's his invention.
Yeah,
Maryland Millions Day,
right.
And then other states that wisely followed it. That was Jim McKay's energy pushing forward. Wide open race, 8, 10, 3 for me. We actually agree on the under trifecta, but Grateful Bread making the seasonal debut gets my top pick for second, number 10, Coppola for Dale Romans coming out of a big sprint effort at Churchill Downs. And then Artemis City Limits for Mike Maker making the second start of the year. Was it also ran in the tough Shakertown?
This is going to be interesting, but I went with That's Right on top. 6, 10, 3, and 1. Interesting because the 1, Nothing Better, has a lot of early speed, and mine has a lot of early speed. I went with the 6, though, for a couple of reasons. Comes in with the 2 nice bullet workouts, and maybe from the outside has the better controlling position over the 1. So I'm going to go with That's Right to maybe try to speed pop them and take them all the way around. Coppola will be the one I would expect to pick up the pieces if things do fall apart. The Dale Romans runner did just that in the last start over at Churchill. And Artemis City Limits in the 3rd position. Tossed in a clunker in the seasonal debut, but again, it's another one of those. You go down the page, and this horse is better than that. I'll look for the horse to rebound to a nice effort. In the 10th, 6, 10, 3, and 1.
All right, we'll take one more, then we'll get to our final break. We're 11th race on the card, scheduled to go off at 4:53, the Maryland Sprint.
10, 7, 8, and 9. I'm going to put Wonder Where Craig Is on top. It's a Brittany Russell trainee. 8 wins and 16 career starts. You always have to appreciate when a horse can do something like that, win half of their starts. And one of those wins was the seasonal debut last time over at Laurel. And I have to think they were probably looking towards this with that, seasonal debut. So they got what they wanted. Sheldon Russell, Brittany's husband, back on board again today. Be interested to see what we get odds-wise, 4-1 on the morning line. But as this is a Maryland-based horse, again, I think we'll get the 4-1. I have my fingers crossed. I mean, it is a talented horse, but I think, as I say, being Maryland-based in an interesting field, I could see potentially floating up. I could also see the horse losing a point or two, but hopefully we'll go in the right direction up. Nakatomi in the second spot. The 2 starts this season have been a little bit disappointing. I mean, the Tom Fool was okay. The Commonwealth, not so much. Cuts back to the 6 furlongs, which may be beneficial this afternoon. So I'm going to use Nakatomi because it's Wesley Ward Gaffleone, a sprinter and a bona fide stakes quality sprinter from Wesley Ward. Straight No Chaser comes in off a big effort at Oaklawn last time. It was only the 6th career start. A lot of early speed. If this horse runs back to that, watch out. Could be very interesting and tough in here. I have a 10, 7, 8, and 9.
Well, I'm 2, 7, 8. As you see, I'll just touch my top pick for Valence. I'd be happy to sign up for 8-1 for this runner. Traditionally ridden by Tyler Gaffleone. Gets Irad Ortiz today. Brendan Walsh adds blinkers. And I have Nakatomi and Straight No Chaser.
I'll say I'm going to be interested to see the odds and how Prevalence did, because I looked and I almost put him in my mix. The last two
I'll be
starts,
surprised if I get 4, to be honest with
do
you.
you really think this horse will go off the last 2, after the last 3 starts? Yeah. But this week I've heard
Look at that debut race.
Heard some people talking about him, but more importantly to me, the reason I wanted to put him in was the 2 workouts. Say Brendan Walsh may have him back in form, so I didn't know what to do, but I agree he's going to be interesting.
We'll take our final break. When we come back, the late pick 3.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Balboa. These 2 arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report
2
on this on this Saturday. We will now move on and take a look, as you say, the late pick 3.
Yes.
We're going to kick it off with the James Murphy, $100,000, a mile on the grass.
7, 8, 9, Kingfish Stevens, my top pick for Carlos Martin, coming out of a good effort rooting at the Big A in starter allowance. Wonderful Justice, my second pick, was 2 for 2, then ran in the Transylvania, which is, an early season test for Seth's subset of 3-year-olds on the turf. And for third, Corrigan backward, the 9, 7, 8, 9.
Somebody else, I'm not enamored with Kingfish Stevens, but maybe it was Bick. Somebody in the last few days I heard like Kingfish Stevens too. So
both of his turf efforts are like
and that
thumbs up. I mean, you got to parse it out.
Whoever said it said exactly that. If you draw right to the
you got to get
races,
rid of the other races.
I put Nagarok.
Probably somebody using Formulator that does that.
I put Nagarak on top. And I looked in other directions, and then I just decided, I think he's best. I'm not totally enamored with him either, but I do think he just may be best in here. Wonderful Justice is a little bit interesting for Brad Cox. The bullet workout attracted my attention. Circling the Drain tries the turf for Brittany Russell and might be a little bit interesting on that angle. Fantastic again for Wesley Ward. Tried the Jeff Ruby stake last time on the synthetic, but getting back to the turf, I'm going to draw a line through the turf debut as a debut effort, but with some early speed and whatnot, that one could be interesting as well. I went 9, 8, 5, and 1.
And on to the 13th. Apparently, it takes an hour for 7 horses to walk across because this we can say First Mission will be scratched out of it. I saw on Twitter they made an announcement for the next morning press conference to say we're scratched. When you made the announcement for the press conference, why didn't you just say we're scratching? But First Mission is out, right? This is all official. The Dolphin has spoken. So there's 7 in for the Preakness, the second jewel of the Triple Crown, which shortens up to 1 mile and 3/16, which once again, newbies kind of scratch their head. What is going on here? But, the Derby winner is here. But more importantly, the Federico Tessio runners are here, apparently, as Seth likes one of the other good magic offspring a little bit. And I want to thank Dan, our director, for getting this up to you. Shocking to me. I mean, nobody is double digits. There's a horse on here, Chase the Chaos, was 50-1 on the morning line. David Aragona, since he put it out for public record, in fair odds had him at 200-1. The people are betting him down almost to the same as my top pick. The odds must be crazy.
And one of my first
there's $1 million
I was
in the
about
pool.
to say, one of my first reactions would be, well, there's probably not that much, but there's $1 million. So that's certainly, you would think it's be shaky.
I would say, I've talked about recently the fact that in the Derby, we seem to have 5 horses that are about 30-1. We don't have any more 87-1s. If I'm still doing this in the wintertime at the behest of Capital, I'm going to, on a slow day, I'm going to look up all the charts and do some data on races of more than 50-1. But I would guess there's never been a Preakness with not a double-digit odds horse. I find that shattering. And good luck getting, as you term it.
Boy, we aren't even close to double digits. I mean,
no.
8-1.
A horse that was 50 on the morning line. How does it get bet down to 8-1? Take it away.
Again, I tipped my hand a little bit earlier. I'm 6-3-1. I originally had the 8 First Mission in the 4th spot, but I listed 4 if you pick up the one sheet with Red Route 1. So I'll pull that one into the mix now.
Yes.
6, 3, 1, and 5. Perform on top. I mentioned earlier, you watched that Tessio, just a remarkable performance. And that they came out, first of all, that they went there. I think this was a horse that took a while to kind of figure it out. And do note that this horse was still a maiden, and in the 5th career start, finished behind Mage in Mage's maiden breaker. But then followed that up, breaking the maiden over at Tampa in start number 6. And they had enough confidence off of that to go to the Tessio, which I think is an interesting choice for a Shug trainee to go down Maryland Tessio. But it was such a remarkable performance. They're a conservative outfit. They put up $150,000 to become eligible for this. I'm going to take a shot with Perform, but as I said earlier, this could go either way. He may, after the race, he may run 5th, and it might just be, well, you had to know from the buyers he wasn't going to do it. I'm just hoping he's on the move, going in the right direction.
What do you think it takes to win this? That's the one angle I like from the buyers.
The number, he's probably going to have to move forward.
He will a little bit. I think 94 wins it. Yeah, I don't believe in the 105.
I'll say he also, with a clean trip, might have had a better number last time because buyers don't take into account.
Right. My thought is he's not going to have to improve 20 points, which most people
and I agree.
When
you said that, I was thinking just what you're thinking, mid-90s probably.
Absolutely.
although it may still wind up to be a 1-0.
They can say whatever they want.
So Perform on top. Mays, clearly the horse to beat. I thought, excuse me, a little too lightly raced for me to jump on board in the Kentucky Derby, and then he did it. He just may be the best of this bunch, at least at this point in the year. The best, and when I say best of the bunch, I mean the 3-year-olds. And it's clearly this is kind of a second string of 3-year-olds here.
In one of the 3 biggest races. The second string shows up.
He clearly is the one to beat. National Treasure is going to take a lot of action, obviously being the Baffert horse who has shown some ability, certainly in the career. Adds the blinkers today, maybe the Catch Me If You Can horse. And then Red Route 1, I have liked for the past few starts, and the Come From the Cloud style always puts him up against it a little bit. But, you're going to get a run in the lane. I have it 6, 3, 1, and 5.
I love him. I mean,
I
love him. And I will say this, I understand everything you're saying about Major's horse to beat, but apparently the people that bet don't think so. He's in the mix. 2 races back for Red Route 1. I love this truncated comment. Off, slow, flat, late. Completely accurate, except the part it misses is something you rarely ever see in early 3-year-old season, which is a demonstrative middle move. He was flat late because he put in a tremendous middle move and had nothing left. Joel Rosario got the mount after that. He has the mount today. He's 10-1 on the morning line. I am all Red Route 1. I have Blazing Sevens, who got me home in the Champagne, part of this $19 winner. That was when Forte had to scratch out, went to the Breeders' Futurity. Chad Brown got us home. And I have Mage, who I'm expecting to run about a 92 today. For third, 5-7-3 in what I think is a very wide open race. And I think in the future, there'll be some 3-year-olds that would wish they had taken on this pot. And here's the other thing. Like if it was $3 million, do you think, how do you skip a $3 million pot? You can't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if it was $3 million and you had a month, everybody's in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Everybody's in. The best. All right, let's wrap it up with. I figured I had to do the Arabian this year, so I did it. But
you got to.
I know I made a mistake
2
years ago. I didn't do it. It was a bad job on my part.
At Saratoga, the people who don't do the steeple, you gotta jump in and do it.
I don't know who this Burning Sand is, but apparently this is the Mr. Prospector of Arabian Stallions. That's all I can say. And you know what I saw? I've never seen. Look at number 7. I have. Well, they don't put the grandsire on it, but the Burning Sand is the maternal and paternal grandfather. I didn't study genetics in Arabian horse racing, so I'm a little dicey there. 397 for me, Seth. I honestly have nothing.
I went 9-2-2-7, and if you've never handicapped these before, we have other tracks that. We'll run some Arabian Delaware runs. So I've handicapped them before.
It's usually the get-out race. They're a little small. They run a little slow. There's not much difference.
You handicap them just the
But
same.
I've never seen the paternal and maternal grand.
No, that is very strange. I remember being at Delaware Park. My lone visit to Delaware Park.
Beautiful.
They ran an Arabian race. And it's funny because they go out there and they're saddled up and it's the same everything, except as you're watching the race, it really has the feeling of slow motion. It's very funny to watch.
It is. I agree. But good luck there. But I mean, I don't know who this Burning Sand is, but please report to your office because apparently he is dynamic as a stallion. So who do you have in a couple minutes?
John Piasek from the Maryland Breeders Association will join us. Used to write for America's Best Racing as well. We'll take a look at some of the stakes action, do a little quick recap of some of the stakes action from yesterday as well. In an abbreviated edition because things kick off at 10:30. Down at Pimlico, so we'll try to catch some of their pregame show. And just one more reminder, Clubhouse Racebook, doors open in a half an hour, 9:30 opening this morning at the Racebook. Come in, put your name in the hat. I'll have a bankroll out there today. So at 1 o'clock, I'll start playing. At 2 o'clock, we'll pick the bankroll team. So again, put your name in the hat to see if you can get on the team. And then the second drawing, put your name in the hat for that. At 4 o'clock, we'll select 4 people to get a $50 Preakness bet. All here today at the Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany.
Could National Treasure be the betting favorite? He's 1 point away from him.
Yeah, I don't. I think Mage will go down. I mean, don't at 2-1. Don't the computer aided wagering people kind of slam that and say 2-1?
We'll find out. Good call. He stays, I go, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, we have great weather down in Baltimore again. Enjoy the Preakness Stakes.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.